Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. What a delightful thing that happened today. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I had been perusing Twitter and had seen that Udonis Haslem was on NBA today. I guess he's going to be on all week. I don't know if you guys have seen what Udonis Haslem has been doing in the media game lately, but the OG is killing it. The OG is killing it. His podcast is hilarious, especially when it's former Heat teammates. Delighted, the episodes that he's had with Gogi and Michael Beasley, and there's been some good stuff. But I am delighted that Udonis Haslem has been doing a lot of national media, strictly because, first of all, awesome for him. He's really good at it. And secondly, what do I tell you guys on this channel constantly? I think a lot of the reasons you guys probably come here is because why? The bums won't talk about it, right? Anytime we feel like there is a message being skewed or it's getting ignored, it's because the bums won't talk about it. The whole thing is just riddled with former Cavs and former Celtics. The whole ESPN machine is just all of that. Boston and Cleveland and New York. And it just gets old after a while, dude. And Udonis Haslem, unfiltered, a gentleman, and is entertaining. But today, this man brought the heat. No pun intended, but he brought it strong. Now, this is coming off the heels of a couple of weeks ago where he had some takes that really echoed, I think, a lot of things that Heat fans have been thinking regarding Tyler Hero, regarding Bam Adebayo. And it was interesting because Udonis Haslem is a man of the people. This man he's not just in tune with the organization. I think in a lot of ways, this is still relatively a young man who is in tune with the fan base and is on social media and sometimes will fight your ass in the comments, or when you're disrespectful, he's going to let you know about it. But I think that he does hear these things, right? Like Udonis Haslem, you may not think that he hears everything. The man hears and sees everything. And so he was talking on ESPN, and he had talked about Tyler Hero and said that, Tyler Hero, our chemistry was better with Duncan Robinson starting and with Tyler Hero being a six man. Just is what it is, right? No untruths that were said there. It was just the reflection of what the numbers had said. That UD, if you guys missed it, this is what Pat Riley had to say about it.
That's a narrative that's out there. Everybody who has that narrative knows more than I do. So they must know more than I know to say that about Tyler. Tyler's a starter. Is that going to be something that you would ask a player one day, whether it be he or Rozier or somebody else one day? I mean, that's where a coach has a job to do. That's what he gets paid for. So whatever is in the best interest of the team, because we don't know until you have everybody sort of available, how the whole thing works, But
which I will say to Riley's comments here, just as an aside, it was really an answer we did never get an answer to, because it did feel like the original plan when Tyler came back was going to be Tyler Hero coming off the bench and then Rozier at the neck, Duncan at the back. We never really knew. We didn't know how the Heat would have gone. It's one of the frustrating things about this. This is not a big what if, although it is tough not to look at the East and think about what a healthy Heat team would have been. Riley didn't play those games, as you know, with the Jimmy Butler, keep your mouth shut comments and all that. But we really don't know. But this was the interesting thing. So then Pat goes off on these comments about what UD said and said, and I think he was doing this. People were like, oh, what was the Jimmy thing tongue-in-cheek? That was not tongue-in-cheek. The Udonis thing, I think, was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, I may agree with them. I may have some thoughts, but we're one voice. We're one voice in this whole thing.
The only thing I think true about what Udonis said, and he has to understand that, he works for the Heat, like, go for it. Okay, but he works for the Heat. And I had that conversation with him because I think he's really good, on NBA TV or ESPN on the studio shows. And I think he and Mike Miller are funny as hell on his podcast. They chop it up, half the stories are a lie, especially the ones about me, are embellished. But yeah, he probably should have kept that to himself. But I'm sure that, Amy and Jax and Eric and John, Jose, they work for us, but they know how to get to that point in a real good way. I think that is our organization. We have one voice.
By the way, I just want to stop in here for a second with what Riley was saying. Again, not necessarily saying what he said was untrue. I know that he defends Tyler there in the beginning. That's what he has to do. First of all, he went into this press conference. He called Tyler Hero fragile right off the bat. Like, you can do all the damage control that you want to afterwards. Your first reaction to, well, he's been fragile. And people who are sitting here, I've seen a lot of heat reaction to people saying that he defended Tyler Hero. I really didn't feel like he did. I felt like what is it? The quiet, he said the quiet part out loud. Like we all got his initial reaction was, well, he's been fragile. And the whole press conference, what was the number one theme? Player availability. And when you dub somebody fragile, that's really that's the number one label. I mean, because injury prone is the only other word that you could use at somebody, but fragile's pretty cutting. But again, it doesn't tell Udonis Haslem like, oh, dead wrong. You can say that that's a narrative that's a narrative that's out there. He's a starter, but he's really said he probably give that to himself. But then, Riley's going to go in here and talk about their one voice philosophy.
And that voice is all of our voices, but one guy who's going to distribute that information is Eric. Because with the nature of today's media, if I'm talking to the media every week, then there's always going to be conflict. Spo and I argue a lot, but I don't want to put it in the media, about things. And God bless all you guys. You have a job to do, and he's going to have to understand.
Yeah. Well, listen, hey, God bless you too, Pat. Godfather. Then he would go on to say this awesome story about, Udonis. By the way, Udonis Haslem questions have capped off the last two Pat Riley press conferences in an excellent way. That being said, okay, let's get back to this. So that was Pat Riley 2 weeks ago, okay? Not even. That was Pat Riley, about 2 weeks ago. That was Pat Riley 2 weeks ago. And Pat Riley's like, oh, Udonis Haslem, he's got to understand we're one voice. He works for the Heat. Well, let me just tell you something. Udonis Haslem stepped up to the plate in this NBA Today show today, and he crushed it as far as what the Miami Heat probably want out there. Because I want people to realize, Pat, he's like, I talked to UD after this. I'm not accusing Pat. I'm not accusing Udonis Haslem of being a Heat megaphone. I think that's just built in him already. And when he does say those things, I definitely think there are things that are kicked around the organization, things that him and Pat have talked about, things that he's talked about with Bam, things that he's talked about with Tyler. He was talking with Tyler. Remember asking him last year at Bam's camp about the whole Damian Lillard thing. He goes, well, I'm a little sensitive to this because I have a relationship with Tyler. I have a relationship with Tyler. And which kind of bummed me out when I saw like Tyler Hero like a tweet about from 5 Reasons about Udonis. And I know he unliked it, but it kind of bummed me out that he had said, well, Udonis Haslem probably shouldn't have said that. And I don't know if maybe Tyler liked it fast and it said like, oh, he only liked the part where he quoted that he's a starter. But I didn't like the fact that, Udonis shouldn't have said that if Tyler did like that, because obviously this is somebody that they have a relationship amongst each other, right? And I don't think that UD was being nefarious saying Tyler is a bad player. I think he was trying to say this is just where his best fit has been. I don't want to dwell on all that. But the comments today, first of all, I continue to be intrigued by this Bronny James, right? Because it just feels like what the guy needs is a piece of Heat culture, right? Like the idea that you have a guy, his father's a generational athlete, and I feel how you want to feel. You want to root against Bronny James. You feel like it's nepotism, whatever. I mean, you see it all over the league. Like, you don't see nepotism like crazy. So the fact that LeBron James is trying to be a good dad and position so his son can get in the NBA, Can't say that I wouldn't do it for my kids if I had the wherewithal to do it. Who doesn't want to set their kids up in the best position possible? I think it's LeBron being an awesome dad. And also, we really don't know if people just assume, oh, his kid's going to suck. Like, you don't know. Why? Because Marcus Jordan's kids weren't good. I get, like, people don't like people who have the in on things. Fine. But I also think it's a little unfair to say the kid's not going to be any good. Partially because this kid had a cardiac arrest episode before his career even got started in college. And I don't really know what's fair to expect from him as a player after that happens. I can understand the argument of saying, oh, well, shouldn't that be a red flag, an organization that's already dealt with the scare of Chris Bosh and has dealt with the scare of Alonzo Mourning? Wouldn't that already be a scare to have a big medical red flag on this? Yeah, maybe, but I also feel like their development and their, sense of family and bringing people in who they've either had brothers on the team or relatives on the team or have those ties close together, I could see that being a good fit, especially if this is having an essential redshirt year like they did basically with Nikola Jovic, where Nikola basically just spent the entire year lifting weights, getting to know the system, growing, knowing details on things. And so I'm into this idea of taking him because I think you took your ready-made guy last year in Jaime. I'm cool with the Miami Heat diving in, taking a prospect. I'm not a draft Nick. Everybody seems to think this is kind of a weak-ass draft. Seen the Zach Edey stuff. I mean, I'll talk myself into it if it happens, but I'm intrigued by this. There's something intriguing about, and it really has. And to be honest with you, it has nothing to do with getting LeBron James back in the Heat. I think it would be badass if the Heat took him and had no interest in bringing in LeBron James. I think that's just kind of a cool story. Like LeBron had his best years here. I think LeBron, as an objective bystander, would probably say, if I could honestly send my son to one organization to develop, I bet you he would say the Miami Heat. And Udonis Haslem appears to agree.
What do you think that the impact he could make as an NBA player?
I mean, I like the first clip. I like the first clip of him guarding somebody. I think when you're in the situation that Bronny's in, it's not about scoring. Can you help a team win? And the way you're going to help a team win and you go into a situation is, can you guard? Can you guard multiple positions? We in Miami like to have Swiss Army knives, guys that can guard 1, 2, 3, maybe sometimes 4. So maybe he doesn't have the height right now, but he has the wingspan and he could possibly have the build. He needs a situation where he can come in and be developed. And I think if he's developed, he can be a huge piece to somebody at some point.
Interesting. And where's a place where, your first thing is you're a defensive dog. You want to be tenacious and you want to get after it and you want to play hard and all that. Interesting where a match would be there for some certain organizations. Well, some more would go on and Malika would talk about this and Udonis Haslem echoed the sentiment from this on NBA Today.
Our Adrian Wojnarowski reported on the show yesterday that it is more than likely that he will spend some time in the G League, but really what he needs to find is the infrastructure around him within some sort of team that has a culture, not to use. He's here. You have to use the term Heat culture.
He's just saying.
At least what if there's a team that has that sort of culture that's able to uplift him and grow with him and be able to develop them. I'm not saying any specific team. I'm just saying that sort of.
Yeah, but we know what you're saying, Malika. We know what you're saying.
Sentiment. Brian, what do you think of all of this?
Well, first off, if Bronny James ended up in Miami, he should be honored because their history of developing players is pretty much unmatched. That's a side issue.
Thank you.
I thought.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you. Udonis Haslem getting the message out there. And look, it's not like Udonis and LeBron don't have very strong respect for one another. You wouldn't think like bringing this kid into a place that would have the watchful eye of Udonis Haslem over him. Like, Udonis still going to all the practices like an insane person, still going to the practices all the time. You don't think that would mesh, that would make sense at all? I don't know, 15th pick, 40, whatever. Just seems like a match made in heaven. I'm dead ass when I say this. I just has nothing to do with LeBron James coming back to the Miami Heat. He can come back, whatever. That's another story for another day. I'm just strictly saying, like, wait a minute. This kid is his father is maybe the greatest player ever. Seems like he's, everybody says there's no question that he could probably hang defensively. 6'7" wingspan, runs like a deer, can jump out of the gym. Okay, so he's 6'2". Like, okay, there's not, can I just tell you guys, there's not hard guards that people have to go stop. Nobody's saying take this kid first overall. You're telling me there's no value in people who can go and guard at the point of attack? What are we talking about here? The other thing that I like Udonis Haslem talking about today, and this is one that's near and dear to my heart, because nobody has had the damn balls to say this on national television, is that it's enough of this J.J. Redick already. And especially, look, I got nothing against J.J. Redick. I really don't. I don't want to keep doing the bit for my show, but I have nothing against J.J. Redick. The guy is, let me just say off the bat, he is very good at broadcasting. He is a very good podcaster. He obviously has grown a great audience. Hey, bully for him. I watched his first podcast where he had one with Jimmy, really good, or any of the Heat episodes that he's had. I do feel like he led Duncan Robinson down the path of trying to be, little J.J. Redick, and the eye off the prize there. Like, Duncan Robinson should have been Duncan Robinson, which is a bad mother bleeper, as he has roded into the Dunkyard Dog. Not some pretty boy with sleeve tats and a podcast. Like, he big brothered Duncan Robinson in the wrong path. That's another story for another day. But the point is, this whole nonsense about him getting a head coaching gig because he's good at podcasting is silly. Like, the idea that you're going to waltz in off of broadcasting and just be like, I get it, you have a resume, a very successful NBA resume, fine. But Udonis Haslem is trying to say here, this staff that we have here at the Miami Heat, they're not getting the love that they deserve, especially a guy like Chris Quinn, who is on there. And he's even basically puts in this clip I'm going to play for you, saying that this Chris Quinn being listed, like, I don't even know if I buy it. But I think it's garbage that Chris Quinn, Caron Butler, Malik Allen, any of the Heat staff members just don't get a shake at this stuff. They don't. And it's weird to me. And I don't know if that's because everybody just thinks they're too, to use the Heat term, culture, they think they're too culty from the Miami Heat, or everybody just thinks it's Eric Spoelstra being a mastermind. But Jimmy Butler, people in the organization will tell you, Chris Quinn should be a head coach. And he has been sitting by what everybody regards as the top coaching mind in the game now for years. And I don't know if it's because Fizdale flamed out in 2 locations. But nobody from the Spo tree has gotten a crack. Dan Craig even left. He went to go coaching with the Clippers. And I don't know. I don't know what the rounds are or what that is, but I find it very, very, very strange that you have 9 people from the Celtics tree get taken. You've had people from the Budenholzer tree get taken. You've had people from all these other coaching staff, Popovich tree. But Eric Spoelstra, nobody thinks that they can learn anything, especially Chris Quinn, former NBA player, Caron Butler, who is, a multi-time All-Star, author, entrepreneur. Dude just has his, together, and nobody thinks that they could hire this guy anyway. But UD had even another take on it, which basically says if you hire J.J. Redick with the Lakers, you're basically casting him as everybody thinking he's LeBron's. Well, you didn't use the term puppet, but you guys get it from the clip.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. If it's JJ, it's going to be a cynical locker room. You're going to see guys that are going to say, is Coach going to do a podcast after the game with LeBron? You're going to have a cynical locker room of guys that are going to side-eye everything JJ says, because they're going to wonder, is it JJ's message or LeBron's message? Now, I'm not just saying this because Chris Quinn is my guy, but Chris Quinn has relationships in coaching LeBron James in Miami prior.
And is actually coached.
To LeBron going to LA. So I know he's a guy that LeBron respects. Now, is he a true candidate? Who knows? Because we understand how this goes. You might put names out there where you already know who you're going to pick.
Sounds like Udonis Haslem knows that Chris Quinn knows his name is just getting floated because of J.J. Redick is out there. I mean, ridiculous.
But I think Chris Quinn really has an opportunity to go into that situation. Some Miami Heat culture, but also sprinkled in with what they're doing now and what LeBron likes to do. You have to have a happy medium. It can't be all Chris Quinn's way, but it can't be all LeBron's way. You got to meet in the middle. And I think Chris Quinn might have an opportunity to really go in there, have the respect of LeBron James, and have the respect of the locker room. And it's not going to be cynical. It's going to be a flat, clean slate, start from scratch.
I just think, and look, it's great that Udonis Haslem, and this is part of the reason I love it, that he is out there. Finally, somebody in the national media is giving some voice to Heat Nation, Heat culture, Heat candidates, how they do things. Because it's always just kind of like it's given lip service. Oh, what a tell. No, this man actually, this is the lead pastor of the church that you have there, and so I love it. But he nailed it. Like I don't understand why the people on the Heat staff are overlooked like that, especially Chris Quinn, who's been doing it for a long time. Karan's, I guess, a little fresher to it, but these guys who are out there, like working with these guys every single day, boots on the ground. They're not, JJ Redick, fine. He sounds great on a microphone. Is he there at 4:30, 4 hours before a game, getting your starting point guard ready like Chris Quinn is? Like, is he, I don't know. It's crazy to me that somebody like Chris continues to get overlooked in these circles. It's weird to me. But I'm glad Udonis Haslem had something to say, and the dude is knocking it out of the park media-wise. And I'm pretty sure Pat Riley liked today's episode more than he did the Too Honest episode about Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, but this was still good. I loved it.